Hello! Today we are going to be taking notes on multiplying decimals. This is just kind of a step up from the last thing that we did, which was adding and subtracting decimals. Today your essential question is, what are the steps to multiply decimals? This is going on page 26 of your interactive notebook. There's an additional sheet that is going on page 25, which is an example page that you will do on your own. But for right now, we're going to be over on page 26, writing in our topic and essential question. You also will need a post-it note for our notes today. So if you want, you can pause the video, add in your essential question in your topic, and also you can grab that post-it note that you need. Now, assuming that you have it all in your book, we're going to look at our standard for today, which our standard is 6 number systems 3. And by the time we're done with this lesson, you should be able to fluently, which means regularly, without any problems, be able to multiply decimals using the standard algorithm. Now, you might be used to doing different ways of solving decimal multiplication problems. Maybe you did a base 10 or some type of a table or a model, but for this lesson we're just going to use the standard algorithm, which is the way that we most efficiently can multiply decimals. It's kind of the quickest way, the easiest way I've found to do it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our post-it note that we have, and I'm going to just put it right here over this spot, and what I want to do is kind of mark my rim here, just so I know that that's about the space I want to stay in when I'm writing my rule. And I'm going to write on the outside of my post-it note, rule, or rules. And these are the rules for multiplying decimals. And the reason I'm putting this post-it note here is so that we can use this as a way to study later on. Where when you're preparing for the next test or quiz, you can say, okay, what are those steps? And you can kind of say it in your head out loud, and then, or out loud, and then you can look under here and it will be all in here written down, and you can test yourself. So I'm going to take that and move it out of the way for right now, and we're going to write our rules down. Now, when we did our adding and subtracting decimals, we remembered that we lined up our decimal points, and we lined them up and then we added zeros as placeholders. Do you remember that, guys? Okay, good. So the difference between that and multiplying decimals is we do not line up our decimal points when we multiply decimals. Instead, we line up our numbers and we deal with the decimal points later. So the first thing we're going to remember to do is line up our numbers. And I'm abbreviating numbers with what might look like to you the hashtag symbol, but the hashtag symbol is actually the number sign. So that is an abbreviation for number. So we line up our numbers. Then, once we're done lining up our numbers and we make it look like a nice, pretty multiplication problem with all those numbers lined up vertically, then we're going to multiply. After we're done multiplying, here's where we deal with those decimals. We're going to count the places behind the decimal point. Behind the decimal point in our answer. And once we count how many places we have in our decimal point in our answer, then we move, or I'm sorry, I said our answer, I'm going to cross that out. What I meant is in our question. Whoopsie daisy, my bad. We're going to write it in our question. And I'll show you what that looks like when we do a practice problem. But please correct that in your notes. Please, please, please correct that. It should be, we count the decimal points in our question because afterwards, then we move our decimal in our answer the same amount of places. So we count the places behind the decimal point in our question, then we move the decimal point that many spaces to the left in our answer. Woo! I'm glad I fixed that because that would have been confusing. So you look at your question, count how many decimal places that you have in the question, and then when you get to your answer that you've already multiplied and you got that answer, then you start at the end of the number and you work your way down adding decimal places, adding space for every spot you have for the decimal. We're going to see how that looks in the form of our answer when we do some practices. So if you need to, you can pause the video, you can write these notes down. Please make sure you get that correction, that it's you're looking at counting them in the question and then putting them in the answer later. Alright, so I'm going to move down in our notes to our first practice problem. Now you'll see that we have this practice problem 21.5 times 63 hundredths, or 21 and 5 tenths times 63 hundredths. So we're going to start off by writing our question vertically. So I write my first one. Now you'll notice that this has 2 digits past the decimal point, whereas this one only has 1 digit past the decimal point. And so if we were adding, we would have had to add a 0, but we're not adding, we're multiplying. So we're just going to line up these numbers. So I have a 3 and a 6, and my decimal's here. So you'll notice that this number's lined up, this number's lined up. There's nothing over here because there was no number, but they're all nicely lined up. But you'll notice also our decimal points do not line up, and that's okay. So now we're going to multiply. In class, I'm going to have you help me, okay? So what is 3 times 5?
15.
Good, 15. Carry the 1. And this is just traditional double-digit multiplication. What's 3 times 1? 3. Add the 1 that we brought over, which would be 4. What's 3 times 2?
6.
Okay. Now we're going to go to the next digit. When we do this, we have to add a placeholder, right? So we're going to put a 0. And now we're going to go 6 times 5. What's 6 times 5, class?
30.
Carry the 3. What's 6 times 1?
6.
Plus 3? 9. What's 6 times 2? 12. So now we've multiplied both digits, and we're going to now add them. What's 5 plus 0?
5.
4 plus 0?
4.
6 plus 9?
15.
15. Good. Carry that 1. 1 plus 2?
3.
And then 1 comes on down. So now we're at this point where we have this number, but we don't have any decimals in it, right? So this is where we're going to start adding those decimal points. So, let's see if I can find a different color pen. So up here in the problem, I'm going to go up to the problem, and I'm going to look at how many places in the decimals, how many decimal places we have up above. And right here I've got 1 space here. See that 1 space? That's 1. Here I've got, from the decimal, I've got 1, 2 spaces. So there's 2 spaces after the decimal here, 1 space after the decimal here. When I add those up, how many places total is that, class? 3. 3 places in the decimal. Okay? Okay, so we're going to start here at the end of our answer. Okay, 3 places. So I'm going to start here at the end of our answer, and we're going to go in. So pretending that we have imaginary decimal here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And I put my decimal right there. Alright, so now my answer ends up being 13 and 545 thousandths. Which is much different than originally when I had 13,545, right? That would not have been the correct answer, because can you tell that there's a difference between those two numbers? Alright guys, I want you to start lining up the next problem, please. The next practice problem, please. Alright, so hopefully hopefully you got yours set up. And I'm going to set up mine now. All right, so we have 165 and 5/10. And I'm going to put my numbers in here, which is 265 thousandths. Once again, notice that the decimals are not lining up, but our numbers are. Okay? So now let's start multiplying. 5 times 5 is what?
25.
Good. 5 times 5 again?
25.
Plus 2? 27. 5 plus 6, or 5 times 6?
30.
Plus 2?
32.
5 times 1?
5.
Plus 3?
8.
Placeholder. Next digit. 6 times 5?
30.
30. Carry the 3. 6 times 5 again?
30.
Plus 3?
33.
Good. Carry the 3. 6 times 6?
36.
36 plus 3?
59.
Okay. 6 times 1?
6.
6 plus 3? 6 plus 3 is 9. Add another placeholder. Another placeholder, so we have 2 now. 2 times 5? 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 5? 10 plus 1? 11. Good. Get a little convoluted here, but it's okay. 2 times 6?
12.
Plus 1? 13. Good. 2 times 1? 2 plus 1? 3. All right. Woo! That was a lot of work. Okay, now let's add it all up. 5 plus 0 plus 0? 5. 7 plus 0 plus 0? 7. 2 plus 3 plus 0? 5. 8 plus 9? 17 plus 1? 18. I'd like more of you to answer for me. 9 plus 3
12.
plus 1? 13. Good. 3 plus 1? 4. All right, are we done yet? No, we got to count our decimals, right? All right, let's go up to our question. If we start here, how many in this part of the question do we have? We have 1, right? Let's look at the second one. 1, 2, 3. So we have a total of how many decimal places that we need to count? 4. 1 and 3, right? Okay, starting here at the end of our answer, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, which gives us 43 and 8,575 10,000ths. And there is your answer. So the biggest thing to remember, guys, is it's multiplication like you've done before, but we just need to remember we got to count those decimal places out and then count those decimal places in. Counting how many are in the question, and that tells you how many times you move in the answer. Now on your notes, before you move on, you're going to take that post-it note that we wrote. We're going to cover our rule so we can use it as a testing tool. And then you're going to go to page 25 and you're going to practice on your own. So this needs to be completed on your own, and then you're going to add your questions and summaries as well. Don't forget, if you need help with your questions, you can go to page 10 in your interactive notebook for help. You can also go to page 12 to help you with your summary. You need 3 questions, and you need to have at least 5 sentences in your summary. If you have any questions or concerns, make sure that you talk to me. Otherwise, you can always go back and watch this video again for more help. Thank you so much, and have a great day.